What makes a good villain? Is it the way that an everyday person could relate to them? Or is it the fact that their motives could be somewhat understood? That maybe you, yourself, have actually been in their positions? Or maybe you've been on the other end to someone who's been in that position? A mean boss, a bad stepmother, or is it their songs, their actions, their mannerisms, their overall unforgettableness? Gothel. Gothel means godmother in German. You have the Grimm's brothers to thank for that. Many questions scatter when we think of Gothel. Did she ever love Rapunzel? Was there more to their relationship? What would have happened if Eugene never came? Would Gothel continue to do what she was doing for so long? All things that I hope to explore today. Okay, so who even is Gothel? A freaky old woman who camps behind rocks and waits patiently for glowing drops of heaven to come down and magic up flowers? I mean, how would she even know about them? What do we know solely based off the movie? Which means I'm not going to be counting any books, any, canon things, or any, you know what I mean. Gothel somehow knows about this enchanting flower and the incantation to say to activate it. She also seems to be willing to go to extreme lengths to fulfill her ways of life, even kidnapping a whole ass princess, just so she doesn't have to age, which honestly I feel, but, to some extent, I use collagen, but, instead of kidnapping cute little babies with magic hair, she's super attractive, and I think that's obvious. She's really smart, calculative, and really manipulative, but she's also fairly loving. To say that Gothel doesn't care for Rapunzel would be wrong, in my opinion, and Donna Murphy, the voice actress for Gothel, also seems to agree. She says, Gothel really did love Rapunzel in her own way. I also think there is this thread of a kind of love that she does have for Rapunzel, it's just not what she set out. Now comes the time where we discuss Gothel's relationship with Rapunzel. Gothel loves Rapunzel. I believe that with all my heart. I know this because their relationship is pretty much the relationship that many people have with their parents. Toxic parents, narcissistic parents. Gothel tried to give Rapunzel the world, enabling a healthy, ambitious spirit, but the moment something verged on her losing her initial incentive, she reverted back to being ugly. Now, when I say she tried to give Rapunzel the world, I don't mean, going out in the street or, meeting people. I mean the world in this small dome that she created, or should I say tower. Now, she taught Rapunzel that the world outside was a cruel place, a horrid place, infested with viruses. Oh, wait, okay. Well, okay, maybe that part's true, but with bad people. And although not entirely wrong, there is a lot of good. But we forget that many parents do this. Many parents do tell their kids that the outside world is an ugly place, that it's always out to get them. But Gothel, sometimes she seems nice. Doesn't that make her a bad villain? Well, no. It depends on what you think actually makes a good villain. For me, it's how insidious a villain could be, how they get you to feel about them. Sure, there's explicitly less complexity in a villain, say like Jafar from Aladdin, who just want, world domination, but that feeling of relating to a relationship between Rapunzel and Gothel is what makes her so unique. Gothel and Rapunzel's relationship is incredibly complex. There's a certain pain to it. It's genuinely unsettling to see from someone who's, on the outside, because it appears really natural if you ignore the vast genetic differences between their hair. You really would think that Gothel was a doting mother, but the devil is truly in the details. Some less obvious than others. There's obviously that iconic detail that everyone points out when Gothel kisses Rapunzel's hair in Mother Knows Best. However, I think that relationship is best shown by how we perceive their relationship. Is it loving? Is this normal? Do we have to psychoanalyze at all? After all, the stuff that Gothel sings is genuinely stuff I hear from my own mother. The best example, or one of the best examples, of Gothel's intense manipulation comes from Mother Knows Best and the extended and cut version, where she says, "Me, I'm just your mother, what do I know? I only changed and bathed and nursed you. Go ahead and leave me. I deserve it. Let me die alone here, be my guest. When it's too late, you'll see, just wait. Mother knows best." This is very manipulative and a tad graphic and on the nose, so I'm assuming they left it up for those purposes. I find that they had this very bittersweet chemistry that Donna Murphy absolutely nails. She's so good at coming out as this sweet, loving, charming mother whilst also keeping an incredibly stern outlook on Rapunzel. Something that's still resonant with many children and adults who have or have had narcissistic parents. Gothel is meant to make you feel sorry for her and that to show you that she's only ever loved Rapunzel. Makes you want to play devil's advocate, and that is exactly what Tangled wants to do. It wants to make you feel manipulated, the same way that Rapunzel has been for years. That's why it's so exhilarating and scary when she finally leaves. And I remember people saying that she's being very overdramatic when she would have her mental breakdowns, but then suddenly go on to feeling intense euphoria and then going back to feeling, horrific again. It's very conflicting, but what do you do when you feel like you've betrayed the only person who's raised you? It's difficult, but remember, Gothel thinks she owes Rapunzel by giving her the basic element of joy and care as she was being raised. It's not a privilege to not be traumatized, it's a right. But parents really do this. They really do think that by raising you, they've done you a favor. It's sad when it happens, but we can choose whether it hurts us or whether we use that trauma and convert it into something sweet. If we choose that abusive cycle and acknowledge it and realize it, then that abusive cycle can end with us. It's scary. I think Eugene tries manipulating Rapunzel, but she stands her ground. And I think that's when we see her blossom without Gothel, and sometimes the change really is just that instant. When you eradicate a burden like that, you really do feel like a new person. Humans, after all, just want to feel wanted and needed, but some parents become obsessively craving over this control in their children's lives, and they're afraid that they'll be left behind. What is a narcissistic parent anyway? Well, Wikipedia defines it as a person affected by narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder. Typically, narcissistic parents are exclusively and possessively close to their children and are threatened when their children start growing independent. It's a very real thing that I realized I was being plagued by after watching the movie the first few times. I remember kind of looking back at my mother and reflecting on that moment. I knew she wasn't a villain, but knew she was scared, which is why it's so important when Rapunzel tries to save Gothel in the end, how Gothel looks so terrifying as she's consumed by her own desires and digs her head in her cloak, and Rapunzel actually tries to reach out that last time. Alan Menken does a brilliant job with the music. He captures every mood in every situation. When Gothel meets the Stab Brothers, or when she's insidiously lurking around Rapunzel, it immediately fills you with dread. Remember when you'd be afraid that your mother would catch you doing something incredibly dodgy, sneaking out, whatever it is? Remember that feeling? That is exactly what the score does. It nails it. It forces you to remember those feelings, and I felt it within the depths of my ribs. It was chilling. But the music at the campfire scene, astounding. It's genuinely beautiful. Subtle, bittersweet, but with a hint of growth. There was something there that wasn't there before. Let me see how many Disney movies I can reference. Anyway, this beautiful score is then soon made somewhat cancerous with the foreboding bells of Gothel's entrance, and the strings slowly start swelling alongside these incredibly deep horns. It's a gorgeous blend of what this movie is. A string of conflicts intertwined in one musical soundtrack, and I would definitely give it a listen. When Gothel's reprisal plays, you can sense the manipulation. The vindictiveness that was implied in the first song is now in full force, and it's awful, it's terrifying, and I don't mean it's an awful score, I mean it makes you feel awful. It's amazing, it does the job. It's terrifying. I genuinely don't even, feel like watching it. It scares me, and it gives me flashbacks from my own mother. She says, "If he's lying, don't come crying," and that line shook me to the core. I couldn't handle that scene just because of the influx of anxiety. Glenn Slater did a magnificent job on lyrics. Character design. Gothel's character is almost a direct contrast to Rapunzel's in appearance, and it's meant to be on purpose. She's got jet black, curled hair, a gaunt appearance alongside a very hourglass figure, while Rapunzel has long, straight blonde hair with huge doe eyes and a very young figure. We even see Gothel using her body as an advantage to infiltrate information from the weird drunk at the Snuggly Duckling. I remember very vaguely that someone likened Gothel to Megara or Meg from Hercules in the way that she moved and was constantly touching up her hair or her hips, even the way she walked. And I don't know, to be honest, it's a stretch of a theory that I hope to talk about briefly in the future because it is an interesting theory. Jin Kim worked on a concept art for Gothel and he did such a good job. I'm still astounded when I see his work. Her facial structure is so skull-like and I've always been so enamored. Like, the reminder of death is constantly there and it's in her own skin. It's so good, I can't even explain it all. I think Donna Murphy did such an impeccable job on voicing Gothel. I can't reiterate it enough. The dialogue, the singing, the language, the delivery. It's so important to nail. It's literally part of her character. It's disguised as saccharine whilst also being deeply vindictive. And you can really tell that Tangled was a labour of love for everyone involved. Everybody wanted to add their all, and you can really tell. Animation-wise, Gothel has a wonderful zest of extreme femininity, and yet her manipulation only exudes even more femme fatale vibes when she's on screen. She's a treat to watch, her mannerisms honestly becoming somewhat immortalized. So, what have we learned? Well, a villain, in my opinion, can only really be scary if it has the potential to become a reality, and narcissistic parents are very real and very common. Usually it comes from repressed trauma. It's sad, but the reality is sometimes it can't be helped, and the best thing you can do is cut it off entirely. You know, maybe don't throw them over a towel edge with the help of a chameleon, but consider maybe creating some distance. It's hard to let go of people who tell you that being raised up to your age is a privilege and not a right. So, you have made it to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and, you know, I would say, you know, like it and all that stuff, comment. You know, do you agree? Do you know someone like Gothel? I genuinely want to know. I want to know if you guys have had any experiences with people like Gothel. Maybe not as magnificent. Usually it's people that are like a little bit uneducated and, you know, they're just not very well versed in how to be good people. So yeah, no. I just hope you enjoy the video, and, you know, drop a like, maybe donate to my Patreon, because I don't want to work. I really just want to do this. This is what I want to do. Hope you're all staying safe, and Zenik out.